1260 KDUZ News, I'm Mark Wodarczyk. A soldier from Appleton who died in Afghanistan has been laid to rest. Solemn ceremonies ended with a 21-gun salute and the playing of taps and Amazing Grace on Saturday to honor Staff Sergeant Garrick Eppinger, Jr. The 25-year-old died September 17th while serving with the Army Reserve's Appleton-based 395th Ordnance Company. Stearns County authorities say about 50 cows were killed in a barn fire in Spring Hill Township. Firefighters responded to the fire Friday about 2 in the morning and found the barn engulfed in flames. Sheriff John Sanders says 20 to 25 cows escaped the barn unharmed. St. Cloud Times reports the rest of the cattle died and the barn was a total loss. Sanders says the total damage amount is still being determined but will likely exceed $100,000. The Wright County Sheriff's Office received a report of a house on fire just before 5 Friday morning in St. Michael. The fire was at 14056 45th Court Northeast, and authorities say the house was fully engulfed in flames when the first emergency crews arrived on the scene. There were no injuries, and the cause of the fire is under investigation. A fresh command team takes over today against a forest fire in northeastern Minnesota. A spokeswoman says the Pagami Creek fire was 71% contained as of last night. The spokeswoman says the cost of the fire has reached over $14 million. The fire has blackened about 145 square miles in and near the boundary waters, but has grown very little since mid-September. We're coming off one of the driest Septembers on record in Minnesota. Much of the state is running a serious rain deficit, but last week offered some relief in at least one area.
Luckily, in the last week or so, we've had some cooler and wetter conditions up in the Northeast, and that's kind of helped out things a bit up there. So the drought hasn't really intensified a whole lot in the Northeast. It is intensifying in the southern part of the state.
Pete Boulay of the State Climatology Office says it was just 1 year ago that the same southern region was swamped by heavy rains and flash flooding. Renville County has been declared the deadliest county in the state to drive in per capita. For 2009, federal statistics show 76.4 fatal crashes per 100,000 people. Sheriff Scott Habel says the perception that driving in the country is safer is not true. He says that the county used the top ranking to secure road safety grant funding. Renville County will use the $20,000 grant to pay for deputy and dispatcher overtime and special traffic enforcement events. MnDOT is putting together a 50-year vision for Minnesota's transportation system and asking for public input during a statewide video conference tomorrow. Planner Philip Schaffner says in advisory groups, workshops, and online, a lot of people express concern about the state's ability to maintain its transportation system.
Sort of a recognition that, in some instances, we may build more than we need to, and to really think smarter about what it is that we're putting in place and really think about our long-term obligations as a society and as a state.
Tomorrow's video conference will be at 15 MnDOT offices statewide. For a list and information on how to submit written comments, you can go online at minnesotago.org. Blood donations this past summer were significantly down, and officials believe natural disasters and school recesses played a key role. Sue Gonsinger is with the Minnesota American Red Cross and says if you can, donate blood this fall. She says all types are needed, but especially O negative.
So that's particularly needed, especially for unexpected surgeries or blood transfusions when it's an emergency situation because we don't have to type the blood.
Gonsinger says O negative blood is universal and can be transferred to anybody. To make an appointment to donate blood, go online to redcrossblood.org or call 800-RED-CROSS. Red Cross Bloodmobile in Waconia later this week. Donors can give blood Wednesday at Southview Elementary School from 2 in the afternoon till 7 in the evening on Wednesday. Local union officials representing the 1,300 locked-out American Crystal sugar workers have mailed letters seeking to meet with growers of the Sugar Beet Cooperative as the harvest begins. The union workers have been locked out of 5 sugar processing plants in Minnesota, North Dakota, and Iowa in the company's first labor impasse in 30 years. Union spokesman Mark Fremke tells the Grand Forks Herald that union officials want to talk with farmers and put their differences aside, but company officials said they're displeased that the union is contacting growers. With the country still in need of a balanced budget, U.S. Senator Al Franken says steps should be taken to reduce the federal deficit without cutting jobs. The Democrat says, for starters,
the subsidies to the oil companies, which are making huge record profits, they don't need the subsidies. We can cut those.
Another example of savings offered by Franken, allowing Medicare to negotiate with drug companies like the Veterans Administration does. Franken says that would cut the cost of drugs by nearly 50% and would in turn save the government $240 billion over the next decade. Republicans have been pushing to cut spending on Medicare to help balance the budget. Could another candidate enter the presidential race? Could be. ABC's Brad Wheelis has more.
Focus on the White House. We should know within days whether New Jersey Governor Chris Christie will get into the presidential race. GOP candidate Herman Cain on ABC's This Week.
Come on down, as they say, to use Bob Barker's term. And here's why. I respect Governor Christie. He has basically distinguished himself because he's not afraid to tell it like it is, like me.
President Obama criticized Republican candidates for not speaking up when a debate audience booed a gay soldier who asked a question.
You want to be commander-in-chief? You can start by standing up for the men and women who wear the uniform of the United States.
Cain's explanation?
I happen to think that maybe they were booing the whole don't ask, don't tell repeal more so than booing that soldier.
Republican Senator and former POW John McCain on CBS's Face the Nation.
We should honor every man and woman who is serving in the military and should in no way treat them with anything but the highest regard.
I'm Brad Wheelis, ABC News.
Series of 8 hearings designed to get input on Minnesota's political boundaries is beginning. A court panel weighing once-a-decade shifts in state political lines starts gathering public comments tomorrow night in Bloomington. It'll hold other hearings across the state through October 14th. The court is not expected to issue its maps until February. Rebecca Brunson scored 26 points to lead the Minnesota Lynx to an 88-74 win over the Atlanta Dream last night in Game 1 of the WNBA playoffs finals. The Simone Augustus added 22 points for the Lynx. Lindsay Whalen had 15. Game 2 of the best-of-5 series is Wednesday night in Minneapolis. Kansas City earned its first win when Matt Castle hit Dwayne Bowe on a 52-yard fourth-quarter scoring pass in a 22-17 victory over the still winless Minnesota Vikings. Aaron Rodgers had a career day to help defending champion Green Bay get to 4-0 with a 49-23 romp over the visiting Denver Broncos. Earlier in the day, the NFC North rival Detroit Lions improved to 4-0 with a remarkable 34-30 road win over Dallas. Devin Hester brought back a punt for a touchdown for an NFL record 11th time in his career to help Chicago outlast Carolina 34-29. Milwaukee has protected its home field advantage in its National League Division Series against Arizona. The Brewers pounded out a 9-4 victory over the Diamondbacks in Game 2 of the best-of-5 affair. Jonathan Lucroy laid down a bunt in the bottom of the 6th inning to give the Brewers the lead for good.
Lucroy bunts, first base side.